Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no! What motherfucker, now she's gone! Yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! You fuck around and find out it's what it is! Homo started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone. Yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. Fuck around and find out what that is.
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, we're back into the thumbs. If you're into that, hey, share the program, give a thumbs up, folks. Been on the road. We're going to talk about what I was doing while I was away from the seat. It's always nice to be back. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. Here is what I'm asking you to do. Just very simply go to jovanlovesgold.com and request your free gold and silver kit today. Now is the first time to protect your money with gold and silver. And I'm telling you, something's coming. And I experienced this firsthand. Let me show you something. Where is it? Boom. Is that it? This happened to me recently while I was on the road. Numerous places are now refusing to take cash. I want you to think about that. It's becoming a real thing. Restaurants, hotels, even like hotel bars, all kinds of stuff, refusing to take cash. It's begun. You're going to see more and more. And you would think, well, this doesn't make sense because they're going to pay the fees on the credit card or they're going to charge you the fees. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has with, I'm telling you what's coming. Everything is going to go digital. Yep. Everything's going to go digital. So just a heads up. I told you it's coming. Go to jovanlovesgold.com. I do that with the fine folks at Goldco. Tell you why you need to have some gold and silver. I'm not saying drop your savings into gold and silver or anything like that. Not at all. I'm telling you, just get prepared for what's coming and know why you need to know about gold and silver. And by the way, this program, we're just going to kind of do a spring catch-up. I've been on the road. I'm going to fill you in on what's going on, and we're going to talk about some of the key items going on. Share this program. We'll be right back, about 3 minutes.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, I'm back. Literally, I'm back, right? Everyone to cut some crap. Hey, do me a favor. Will you let me know if, in fact, you see my broadcast on Instagram? We've had some issues, a few things weird going on with the feeds. I don't know what it is. One, we've had some issues on Facebook. We think we got that corrected. I can't see anything coming up on Instagram. Let me know if you're seeing me on Instagram. Then for some weird reason in Rumble, when we schedule in a show, it's showing a album cover, show cover from like a year and a half ago with a different title. It's not picking up the image. It's not picking up the title. And so it just looks like the same show over and over and over. So I don't know what's going on. There's evidently a few little bugs in the system, right? A few little bugs in the system. Going on. But if you're on Instagram, give me a shout out. Let me know everything's fine on Instagram because I'm not seeing it pop up correctly. Okay, I've got something for you in this, and this is just kind of a spring catch-up, guys. I've been on the road. There are times that I cannot avoid it, that I literally have to get on the road. I detest being on the road anymore because at one time, it was more than 300 days a year of my life. Ever since, I'll just share some things with you, being in front of people, speaking in front of audiences, audiences as large as over 40,000 people, right? No big deal. Not a thing. Give me a microphone, boom, 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 do my stuff. Don't need a script, don't need a teleprompter. I'll go and do what I do after all these years. After they tried to assassinate me over all of this election stuff, right? Which many of you, thank God for you being there, saw me through it. I was gone from the air for quite a while, and it just took me forever to get back to normal. The effects of coming close to dying lasted for a long time. But here's what's interesting. I have found now, only uniquely now, and I guess it's something psychosomatic with the process because I had, been at that event and spoke. And then, of course, the chemical attack or whatever happened that got us. But I now find if I'm going to go speak for any reason, and I try not to, as I'm getting ready, I profusely sweat. Isn't that weird? I don't know what it is. But after all of these years, being in the public eye, doing stuff, television, radio, film, TV series, etc., now have me go out to do a speaking engagement, and I profusely sweat. Now, even before that, because of explosion, war wounds, bullet wounds, fires, near-death experiences, already had PTSD. It didn't quite affect me this way. But do you think that's what it is? Isn't it weird? I just find myself, I kind of turn on like a spigot and I just go to sweating that I can't keep up with. Right? Anyway, so I had to go on the road. I primarily was in multiple places: Maryland, far northern Virginia, Philadelphia. And some of the stuff I was dealing with, I have just an ungodly amount of patents. And a lot of some of these particular meetings were regarding my patent work, a lot of my advanced patent work, various, diagnostic testing, molecular biology, DNA testing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I found it very funny. I hopped in an Uber, and I guess it's kind of my own damn fault. I'm telling you my impression. Hop in an Uber, nice Uber, nice fellow. He was from Singali, right? Africa, West Africa. And we started chit-chatting, and I kind of have this thing, always ask Uber drivers, hey, do you drive Lyft as well? Do you do Uber? Has it done well for you? Because I'm kind of curious of how people are doing well. By the way, the best Uber driver profitability I have ever run against, and if anybody wants to retire and drive Ubers, here's a place. I met a guy that is billing making about $3,400 a week driving Uber. Yeah. And he drives only one leg. Where would you think? Give me a city. Yeah, I kind of interviewed them when I'm in the car. I just like to know about people. Give me a city where you think an Uber driver can make $3,400 a week. Where do you think the city in the United States of America that you could, what's that, $200,000 a year? What is that, by the way? Let's just do that out, okay? Because this is the most ever found. It was about $3,280, if I remember what he told me, times. So $170,000 a year driving an Uber. Somebody says New York City, DC, Michigan. No. Atlanta, Beverly Hills. Nope. Chicago. Nope. Ironically, ready? Was in Arkansas. But a very specific place in Arkansas. Bentonville, Arkansas. Of course, Bentonville, Arkansas is the world headquarters for Walmart. Now, I found that out because I went to meet the executives of Walmart. Walmart is in this Bentonville, but the airport planning for the expansion and traffic of Walmart had to build pretty distant from the airport. So it's a 35, 40-minute ride from the airport to Walmart world headquarters. And all this guy does is pick up and drop off for Walmart, meaning not for Walmart. They don't book them. The people book them. But because it's so consistent, he can pick somebody up at the airport, drop somebody off, and get another one headed right back to the airport. And that's what he does all day. And this fellow's in a very, very inexpensive town to live in, beautiful part of the country, in that part of Arkansas, making $3,400 a week. Anyway, I digress. So I'm talking to this Singali fellow, and we're just chit-chatting about Walmart and stuff. And he happened to, Uber. He said, this is, not really my normal job. I just take it when I have time. And I go, really? I go, what do you do? What's your real-time job? Just, conversing with people. And he says, I am a molecular biologist researcher. Then I specialize in testing. Well, number one, the fact that he would come back with that wasn't even on my radar. Wasn't even on my radar at all. And I go, really? I go, well, what's your specialty, right? Little does he know I'm in Philadelphia, leading research area, Drexler University, blah, 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 blah. It's nice. The universities in the town are absolutely beautiful. And of course, this is why I'm there. And he goes, well, I'm in, this and this, and I do advanced research and whatever. And he says, my specialty is malaria. I go, that's interesting. And then I told him, I said, are you on the push side or the pull side? And I've noticed him kind of go, what? So you understand in government, here's how it works. There is a tremendous amount of testing, which is good testing, in the medical field of going back, finding what old drugs can do. A good example would be Ozempic, something treat for diabetes. All of a sudden they found out it had all these weight loss applications, right? So that's kind of like it's developed for this, but there are indicators and it works for this, right? Like people discovering that are dealing with Epstein-Barr, some of these chronic pain diseases where they can't move around or can't cope. It's not quite RA, but they live with pain. There's a drug they found out just by happenstance. It's a anti-rejection drug when you get a transplant. Well, come to find out, those little chemicals that keep things from rejecting a transplant actually work on those pains, and people are living pain-free because of it. But it's kind of an off-label indication. But anyway, science is now studying this. And it's really amazing, but it really sucks at the same time. Let me tell you why. There are so many medicines out there that either go off-label, meaning they're out of patent, or kind of have done their time. And the pharmacological industry is only interested in brand new drugs, brand new patents, brand new things that they can, get charged on insurance and stuff. So you can find something that maybe 20 years ago did this, it went out of patent, so it's fallen out of favor, kind of like ivermectin. And the industry never looks at it again, but you can find out it could be an incredible cure for something. That it's an actual, well, I shouldn't say cure, an actual remedy for something. And the industry won't look at it anymore. And the reason they won't look at it anymore is because it's out of patent, which means anybody can make it. They make their own formula now. There's no competition. And so the price is really, really low. And because they can't get an ungodly amount of money for it, they don't mess with it. Anyway, this guy was in that space and he kind of looked at me like, because here what happens is if you're in that space and you're testing and you can find new applications, primarily for third world countries, he's out of Africa, that's why he's doing it, then the governments pay you on the backside. You develop it up front, you prove that it works, you start helping people, and then the government at that time will come in and pay for it. It's a complete opposite system of what we do in the US. And it's how it should be done, right? But the drug companies are for shit. So anyway, I start talking with this guy and I was just amazed, right? And of course, I tell him, I have to say, wait a minute. Don't look at this, white, fat, middle-aged dude, nerd. I said, I'm a nerd hiding out in a biker's body. Don't let it fool you. So we had this really interesting discussion, very long discussion about medicine in the United States or drug interactions or testing or whatever. And a lot of you know, and I could relate because one of my patents for the pregnancy test, when women get bitten by a mosquito that is infected with the Zika virus. You ever seen these photos? They used to march them around in oddity shows, but you'll see them. And it's people and or children, and they have this really, really, really tiny head, and it's kind of elongated, but got a super tiny head on a regular body. That's caused by being infected with a Zika virus when the mother is pregnant. However, we don't test in the United States. We don't test for Zika until after, or there's no testing at all. And we have all these issues with this particular type of birth. Let me see if I can find a photo of it so you understand what I'm saying. It changes. I'll give you a drawing here. Well, this is probably better, because instead of giving you a medical one which shows scale, it'd probably just be easier to show you up front, so you understand what is battled. So in the Zika field, and think about women, any of you, how many of you had ever been bitten by mosquitoes and ever been bitten by mosquitoes when you were pregnant? It's a thing, right? The gestation period of the Zika virus runs counterintuitive to the pregnancy, because in order for it to reveal, you're way down in the pregnancy, and then you're going to be told that you basically have some of them basically call it myceleptic, but it's not. It's Zika viral head syndrome is what it is, microencephaly. And this microencephaly, which has been around forever, has now been attributed to Zika, right? But one of my patents, and why I could talk to it, it's mosquitoes that transfer malaria. And so we're comparing research, because what I was able to do is combine your very first pregnancy test, when you piss on the stick pregnancy test, with Zika. So you would know right then and there if you've been exposed, and you're not waiting till very late term pregnancy, or your child comes out and you're trying to figure out what the hell answered, and forever they're infantile or whatever. So I had a very just great discussion with this guy. He came to South Carolina first, Charleston. Smart fellow, bought a condo. Everybody told him he's nuts, because everybody out here owns the country. He's been here for 15, 16 years now as a citizen. Condo's worth great stuff. And he got up to Philadelphia. He too got to Drexel University, going up there for research. So I was just amazed. I was amazed. And then, of course, being in a university format, you can imagine I was right smack dab in the middle of academics. Yeah, here you go. Corey, there was a big Zika outbreak when getting married in 2016. Yes. It was that outbreak that caused me to develop the pregnancy test that also tested for Zika. You can look up my patents at the same time. It was that particular outbreak that forced me to do it. There you go, Corey. Want to have babies right away? Doctor told us I had to stay away from, stay in the north for a honeymoon. There you go. We have something in common. While you were wanting to do the horizontal mambo on your honeymoon, I was thinking about people doing the horizontal mambo and making sure their babies did not come out with Zika. Anyway, it was just fascinating. But I was in a wash of liberals. And it was kind of a humbling experience. The humbling experience of this one was they too. Now we're talking at the, I'm going to say high level, right? We're talking, academics, lawyers, researchers, etc. All of them are totally fed up with everything going on all sides. All of them just want to get back to America, live your life, raise your families, and succeed. Every one of them that I met believed that the system is just in chaos and agitating on purpose. And that was kind of sobering for me. Kind of sobering, because we sit here all the time talking about all the crap going on. And folks, what I'm doing is a spring catch up. I'm just telling you, what happened, why I was gone for a few days. I have to tell you, it was refreshing. It was refreshing that one, in this particular room at super high levels, get down to the lower levels. And when I say lower levels, people in a corporation or in research or in patents or in the legal field or anything, you don't want to get down here and deal with where the person can only say no, meaning they're only empowered to say no. Because how do they feel powerful if, in fact, they're only empowered to say no? There you go. They say no. And when they say no, they feel like they're doing their job. And so I never take a no from somebody who can't even say yes. So I'm on the other end of the spectrum dealing with the people that can say yes and do have the power. And I'm finding out everybody is fed up with all of it. All parties, all sides, all information. And I have to leave my phone active because of some things that are going on, right? But all things, all across the spectrum, everybody's fed up and everybody's feeling we've been manipulated, we've been conned, we've been ripped off. And here's what's really interesting. They don't put it at that level. They're not putting it on Donald Trump. They're going, it's parties and it's the system, and the system's abusing us. So I found that exceptionally refreshing, right? Exceptionally refreshing to be on the road. So this one being on the road did me good. Besides being out in the country and things are starting to bloom, meaning across the country, spring is a great time. And that means the system also doesn't accept shit like this. Here's, some of these liberals going on these various programs. And I've seen this repeated quite often, that Trump is even worse than the Nazis. That's the kind of stuff right there. That is the stuff right there that gets us in trouble. And it's all to keep people pissed off. That's it. It is all 100% to keep people in the system, us, pissed off, angry, fed up, and to take weak-minded people that think Donald Trump's evil and add to it, oh, he's even worse than Nazis. And we've heard people say this on the street. Although in this research phase, I found something I want to give to you. When I saw this, I'm trying to put it into words. When I saw this, it was the message I needed to see, to hear, and to be reminded of, right? For the last 8 months, a lot, dealing with our elections, dealing with where we route the evidence, how do we get the evidence, who gets what, who reviews this, how do we express it for the courts, how do we do this? It's eaten up a tremendous amount of my time over the last 8 months, right? Even to the point that, I'm not broadcasting as much as I want on locals. I'm not doing spaces as much as I want on Twitter. And you may have noticed it in a pattern of work, but it's been a very long process, hard process, challenging process behind closed doors, dealing with the system. How are we going to handle these things? What's really going to be pursued? How is it going to be pursued? How does all our evidence come into play? Everything, we found with the Arizona audit and stuff. And what does it really mean to every one of these pieces? I haven't been able to talk about it, but for 9 months now, it's been every living, working moment dealing with just that stuff because the findings are just so monumental. And now, because of the phases it's in, whether it be Maricopa or whether it be Georgia or whatever, it's all about cross-coordinating and everything. And in that mess, it's politics, and politics are nasty. Right? Nasty, 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 nasty. So it hurts my soul. Then I came across this while I'm out there in the DNA field and in the medical field and in the research field and research universities and trying to coordinate this and trying to get agreements done and all this other stuff. What always wears on me as an individual, as a human, is to know the truth and to have the evidence of exactly what happened in 2020, and to always wonder how is that going to be used and how do we best use it, and then to understand, even like we're going through right now with all the illegals, when you look at the illegals coming in, and you see it's directly tied to motor voter, which I started telling you years ago, which now only people are starting to pay attention to, but you've known for at least 5.5 years. And you see the dim states use that motor voter, control it. And there you go. And the swing states that get fought over started doing it. And that's what's turning them eventually blue. Texas will probably be next. And the Texas that don't do it is how we stay true to the country we are, right? And so it's been trying. And so sometimes I think it's visible in my broadcast that I can get as down as you, right? I can get as upset or as depressed or set back as anybody else, right? Fighting for the things I fight about. And then if you really knew some of the true stories behind the scenes, it'd just make you vomit. And I struggle at a soul level with it. I struggle at a soul level. I really do. One of the things that kind of held me higher was way back when, ironically, was the assassination attempt of President Trump, and just knowing that simple turn, boom, the shot going through his ear saved his life. And so in all of my work, I have to do this careful tap dance, and there's good guys, there's bad guys. You work with people that say they're good guys, but you know they're bad guys. There's a few bad guys that you got to deal with because it's just kind of the way you kind of work in the system or whatever. I kind of needed a sign. So recently, and doing all of this, medical stuff and having to deal with that part of my life again, right? I was exposed to the binding glue that makes everything work. Think of it as if you have a house with a basement, that the basement has to be built really strong, have, super thick walls. It's got to be impervious to outside forces. So should be, you don't want leaks, you don't want colds, you don't want this. So think of it at the basement level of all of our DNA, right? The basement level. Something that occurs right at the moment life begins. Ironic, we were just talking about pregnancy tests and my patents there. But it's the one thing that binds everything together. Nothing works unless it can interact together, right? The core of our biology, the paralogs, the genes in humans that are the basement core, that if you didn't have that foundation, right? If you didn't have that foundation, nothing would happen. Not a tissue would connect. Not a bone would grow. None of it would interact together. The matrices between your exoskeleton, everything else, right? Extracellular and extraskeletal combinations that really build us as humans, right? Literally. And what's interesting is if you're lacking in this, if you don't have enough of it, here's what's very funny. If you don't have enough of it, you actually break out in boils. Like in the Bible, you bust out in boils. But think about this. This is the basement DNA that makes everything work the way it is. And it is what directly controls activity, connectivity, influence, differentiation, migration, and adhesion of all cells. It is the baseline communication factor. You want to see it? I know that's a big setup. You want to see what it looks like? There it is. Now that's it. It's called laminin, and that's it at its base level, right? It's not collagen. It's not fascia. It's not any of that. This is the very, very base. It's basically part of a family of glycoproteins, and it's the extracellular matrix. It's everything, right? It is the basement membrane. You want to see how it's expressed. That's it under the microscope. You want to see how it's expressed. How's that for a holy shit? Or what should I say, a holy shit? That is literally the cell connect nodes, and on the right, what it looks like in the intra-DNA weave, the weave. That is what connects everything in you at the base level and makes it work, be right, be just, and perform. And it's written into your foundation of your DNA. This is the foundation of everything that makes this work. And by the way, if you're lacking in it, which I think is interesting, which is just like biblical stuff, literally when you're lacking in it and your body's lacking in this foundation, you bust out in boils. Is that not awesome? Is that not freaking awesome? Man, we were all told we were made in God's image. Is that not awesome? Does that not rock you to your core as to how everything connects and everything's made? So I can tell you, because of the things they're doing, and just to get that little bitty dose and be forced to look at it at the molecular level and understand it. And this is exactly how it's expressed, because that's what it is. Academia can't change it. It is what it is, what it is, what it is. To even be dimensionally and proportionally that, because, I always ask that the struggle on our organization of dealing with this election stuff is not only soul crushing, it's financially crushing, right? Because you think government's going to do the right deal. None of them are going to do the right deal. And they would have hoped long ago we would have just thrown away the evidence, and because it costs so much to keep, right? And they would have had us throw it away. And going back to the discovery of just this one thing was just kind of overlooked because it had all these different domains like laminin G and, G1 and G2. And I could keep on going, the various domains, the E's, the B's, the whatever. And it wasn't until it was truly isolated out as one that you could really see it. And so, I struggle daily. Are we going to be able to keep all of this evidence that's needed? Government can't step in and take over. That's just one of the funkadunks of it, because it's got to be independent research. And so it kind of gave me an uplifting thing that all of this was worth it and divine and whatever, right? And whatever. By the way, online, do you happen to follow James Woods? Right? Any of you follow James Woods? Hang on one second. The actor, run out of Hollywood, etc. By the way, I'm going to just, while it's on my mind, because it is on my mind, I'm saving the link, or I'm posting the link for you for our Give, Send, Go. It's so critical that we meet that number, and we need your help more than ever. So I'm putting that back out there. But have you seen James Wood? He's been a staunch Republican supporter, etc. Well, he just basically said, I no longer am or identify as a Republican. Same thing I told you. I told you that back December of 2020, when I really kind of understood what was going on. Although I always called myself a Republican and proud of myself to be a Republican, I am not a Republican any longer. And so James Wood has now come out and said, as he watches this stuff, he says, and I'm reading directly, without the SAVE Act, we will lose the House in November, which I told you. Democrats will nuke the filibuster. The Senate will be lost within 4 years. More Ket and Johnny Browns will be confirmed to the Supreme Court. Democrats will then cheat a Democrat into the White House. The border will be open like a wound. We will be flooded with illegal aliens. The cheating at the polls will then be irreversible. Democrats will be a supermajority for decades to come. Every city and town will end up looking like every blue city shithole looks now, and America will become a socialist sewer. Now, he posted this because John Thune, won't do anything to pass the SAVE Act. Thune's office, when people are picking up the phone, calling Thune's office and saying, pass the damn SAVE Act. It's not perfect, but it will help in the midterms. Thune's office reply, and I'm going to tell you what the reply is. The office reply is that there's no need for it because voter fraud is not widespread and a thing. Now listen to those words. Voter fraud is not widespread and a thing. Now I told you this years ago. And for those of you that are new, I'm going to explain to you how this works. For those of you that have been family here for a while, it's just a refresher course. What happened in 2020 with President Trump was not voter fraud. There you go. What happened in 2020 was not voter fraud. Now, I've always taught words matter. Words matter. And John Thune's office is 100% correct. Now, I told you they create excuses for themselves. We follow the Election Assistance Commission and the Help America Vote Act rules and guidelines. Then when you know the rules and guidelines, you understand they're voluntary. Now, this is not an issue of maladministration or malfeasance. This goes a little bit forward. Ready? Voter fraud is almost non-existent. You're hearing it from me. Voter fraud in the scale of how many people there are in the United States is almost non-existent. So why am I saying exactly what Thune uses as an excuse to say there's no need to vote on it because voter fraud is really just tiny. It's nothing. It's because, write this down, it is what happened in 2020 was election fraud. That sent chilled down my spines of how important and monumental this is for you to know. There is voter fraud. There is election fraud. Now, we're talking about criminal acts. We're not talking about maladministration or malfeasance yet. We're just talking about criminal acts. Okay? Criminal acts. Here's what voter fraud means. Now, pay attention, because this is exactly how they kept everything from being investigated, and this is exactly what John Thune is using as the excuse to not pass the SAVE Act. There's just it's not election fraud. It doesn't really exist. And this is why it is up to you to educate your lawmakers. And you've got to understand this. So let's break this down. Voter fraud. Who is the voter? Put it in chat. Who is the voter? It's all of this hinges on one singular word. Who is the voter? You. So what they say is a person going to the extent to perpetrate fraud in an election is minimal. And that's correct. That's 100% correct. Now, let me give you an example of some prosecutions of voter fraud. Brnovich in Arizona, who is now deceased, who didn't do anything about this. While we're doing the audit, they happened to find a singular voter out of 2.5 million. One voter. This is his office. One voter out of 2.5 million that voted her dead mother's ballot. Listen to the words again. They found a woman who actually opened and voted her dead mother's ballot. And it went in and it got counted. They found out. They went to the woman and they arrested her for voter fraud. Now, here's what's incongruent with what I just told you. Can you pick out why this is total bullshit? One woman, we're going to go through it because when you see it, you can't unsee it. In Maricopa County, they're basically, we're going to call it 80% mail-in vote. Okay? They don't mail you a ballot, they mail you a ballot packet. That's why Carrie Lake lost with the Scooby-Doo attorney saying, well, you got ballots there at the voting centers and you didn't count them and you sent them downtown. And they said, we didn't get ballots. They said, yes, you did. We saw it. They said, sorry, but that's not ballots. That's voting packets. And we have to transfer voting packets. It's all words, right? So get ready for this. And you're right. How did they know? Let me tell you why. The facts of the matter is she did not confess. She didn't go turn herself in. So how did they know? %80 of the people in Maricopa get a mail-in ballot. Now, here's how it works. Ready? When the ballot packet is open and you take out the ballot, the security envelope, and some bullshit instructions, you got a ballot and an envelope. That's the legal instrument. She voted her mama's ballot, put it back into the envelope, scribbled on it, and sent it in. Now, there's a few things you need to know, and I'm going to give them to you in order. When that returned ballot comes in the security envelope, they open it, they take out the ballot, and the envelope goes this way. The ballot goes this way. Now, we know in Arizona, they really didn't do security signature checking. The ballot went this way. The envelope went this way with the signature on it. They really didn't check any, so okay. And then the ballot went this way. Now, what you need to know about that is once the physical ballot at that moment in time, and only at that moment in time, when you have only that completed return piece, that's an envelope and a ballot, can you actually tell? It's the only time in the system you can tell who voted the ballot. Now, what we know is they accepted it and they counted it. So that envelope went over here. See, it wasn't she tried to vote mama's ballot. It was that she did vote mama's ballot. So we know it was separated. When the envelope goes that way and the ballot goes that way, there is never again another point in time that you can tell whose ballot goes to what envelope. So you never know who it comes from unless you got the envelope. So riddle me a few questions, okay? Number one, mama died way before the election. In Maricopa County, the coroner does not report to the county, this person is dead, remove them from the voter rolls. Maricopa County Recorder, they say it's up to the family. Well, we know the family didn't. So the first question is, they didn't find the ballot because mama was dead because there's not a reporting procedure. I know you're asking why. They're 2 doors apart between where they'll have somebody death records or the county election records. It's one simple line item on a computer, but they say it's the responsibility of the family to remove the voter. If you've buried anyone at any time in your life of voting age, I don't think you thought about, oh, I got to go take them off the voting roll. So the first question is, they didn't find her by death records. And even if, get ready for this, even if mama died and then they caught it later, how do they know what ballot it was? Maricopa has a problem where one couple lives in a house, male and female. They've lived there for over 30 years. They get in excess of 100 ballots. A lot of the people dead and passed from years and years ago, but they still get them. So we know they don't take them off the rolls. So how do they know? If the envelope goes this way and the ballot goes this way, and we know it counted, which means it went all the way through the system, how did they even track it? If they destroy the envelopes, they also can't match it with the ballot. How'd they know? So you see my conundrum here? Because I think in this, Here's the answer. You ready? See, in the United States, we have secret balloting. There's no way to put it back together once it comes in. Once it comes in and hits the system, you can't put it all back. And what really dawned on me here is the reason they know that one ballot got voted by someone. You ready for this? Here's the answer. The total reason they know is to shut you the fuck up. Because what does the system get out of that? Hey, look at the heroes we are. We found the person that cheated. There's no trail to find the person that cheated, but they found the person that cheated. So it basically looks like we're doing our job. No, what do they really get? Here's what they get. If you backtrack these, you'll find the same states over and over. And you'll find them in like the Brennan Center for Law, their reports on election. And their reports on election say voting fraud is a very, very tiny fraction, almost not measurable. That's at the Brennan Center. Well, when you look at these things, you still find the same damn states. Then you got to ask yourself, why is it that Maricopa every now and then, and at a fairly consistent level, is able to find one voter that actually illegally voted a mail-in ballot? Because it's rigged too. Number one, it's a misdemeanor. They didn't put the woman in jail. I think the fine was $1,000. I think they actually recruit these people and pay them off so they can say, we have 2,583,000 voters and only one instance of voter fraud. And they pay these people to do it. Now what you get is a misdemeanor, no big deal. It's not going to be on your record. And they probably pay somebody off. Looks like they're enforcing their job, but what do they really get? Voter fraud is very negligent, which brings me back to Thune. Thune gave the Brennan Center excuse. Voter fraud is so minimal, it barely happens. That's why you need to understand the difference between voter fraud and election fraud. See, when they overprint ballots, that's election fraud. That's the system perpetrating fraud, not the voter. That's why sitting in a court of law, when somebody says, you got 110,000 ballots that couldn't be accounted for that shouldn't be there, and they say, look, research shows that voter fraud is so minor, and they can actually say there's no voter fraud in that. That's erroneous. You know what? They're telling the fucking truth. There isn't no voter fraud in that. It's election fraud. The system, federal and state racketeering. And so now when I look at all of this stuff and I look at Thune's excuse, it's very clear these are manufactured processes they do. And they actually will act. We found this person and we perp walked them. These 5 people were inserted ballots. By the way, you see more. What have you noticed an uptake in? Since the 2020 election, you're seeing more Democrats and or Republicans getting caught having excess ballots or cheating on the voter list. They're giving us a little to make it look like they're doing their job. But then when it comes down to it, the bullshit they sell is voter fraud is very minimal. And that's the difference, folks. For Mr. Thune, every one of you should be pushing back on his Twitter and everything else. And you need to let him know the United States of America has never been focused on voter fraud. The issue is election fraud, when the systems, the processes, and the officials maladminister elections to the point it's fraudulent. That is the issue. All of this other stuff they do is for show. It's all for show. And as I go back and looking at this and seeing Thune's response before I left on the road, I go, holy shit. That comes from the Brennan Center for Law. And you got law, CIA directors, voter fraud's tiny. That's a true fact. And that's why they always find one. How the fuck, if we have secret elections in America, they find one? Because every now and then they give a sacrificial lamb to make it look like the system's working. And that's the deflection for the paper. You know, they have the deflection of the machines. It's the machines, it's the machines, it's the machines. The deflection in the papers, voter fraud's really very minimal. And if you look at that, it's all about that ballot and somebody voting a ballot they're not supposed to vote. And that's what's going in. That's what's going on. And you need to push back on Thune very politely. And you'll find where he said voter fraud's very small, his office. And let him know we are not dealing with voter fraud. Voter fraud is, in fact, minimal. We are dealing with election fraud. And that's the systems, the programs, the elected officials, and the procedures being manipulated and or abused to the point it's maladministration, and it's so egregious that it ends up being fraudulent. And that's the deal. That is the deal. But see what they get to do? Somebody like Thune says, well, here it is right here. Look at all these places that repeat it. And they're supposed to do the research. That's it. That's it. And that's why you need to understand the difference between voter fraud and election fraud. And for 5 years, I've taught you it is not voter fraud. It is not even fraud. It's election fraud. And when it comes to the voting, it's maladministration that can lead to it. That's it, period. Right? That's it. Right? And that's how it works. And you got to try to be polite. If you yell and scream, you won't get it. Anyway, I've got one other one for you. Have you been seeing where President Trump has been saying Cuba needs to become part of the United States? And Denise says she's calling Thune today. You should be polite. Your office is answering voter fraud is very minimal when the country has never been talking about voter fraud. We're talking about election fraud, where the very officials, systems, or whatever are broken, disconnected, that allows for it to happen, but it does not depend on an independent voter executing it. It's the system, and that is election fraud. When the system demands IDs in a state, but the state says, like California, well, we don't really need to see your ID, but if you'll sign this piece of paper saying you swear you have one, and under penalty of law, we'll accept that. Well, see, that's them maladministering the election because they're not looking at a physical ID. They said, well, we have a piece of paper here of them swearing it's real. That's where they optics, right? It's never been voter fraud. It is election fraud. Anyway, you know about Cuba? Quick poll. Should Cuba, if it can be done, should Cuba become part of the United States of America? Yes or no? Should Cuba become part of the United States? Yes, and Isaac, my voice is finally back. Isn't that great? Yes, cigars for all. No, yes, sure, yes. Yes. No, yes, because the Cuban hot girls. Yes, no, yes, no. Don't need them on the welfare system, blah, 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 blah. Okay, get ready. I'm going to give you my personal take. My long-term production partner in our production company is Cuban, legal Cuban. His parents immigrated legally, born here, Cuban family. Cubans are almost exclusively, get ready, Cubans are almost exclusively Republican. Did you know that? Don't think Mexico when you think Cuban. Cubans are resoundingly conservative and Republican. And I'm talking hardcore. I'm talking family values, get after it, work, create something. That's Cubans. And Cubans love to work. It is a shame on the family and everything to be on welfare, and they won't do it. So, talking from personal experience, Cubans are exceptionally productive. In their repressed system, they are very resourceful. Do you know why when you see pictures of Cuba, you see all the old 57 Chevys and shit? Do you know why that is? Do you know why that is? It's because of the various injunctions and stuff. They don't get new cars. So you know what they have to do? Fix everything. And they do it. The embargoes and stuff. Incredibly literate, resourceful people. Almost all of them can read. All of them can do math. They're very proficient. And because they don't get imports, they have to be industrious and be able to fix it. And they know how to do it. They know how to do it. They make it work. So with that said, let's look at some of the things about Cuba and why I think it could be pretty logical for Cuba to become part of the United States. Okay. Now the Cuban economy hovers somewhere between $100 and $150 billion a year. That's about the total economic weight of either a Hawaii or a West Virginia. Okay? Period. And so it would basically mean that $150 million of commerce would now come into the United States of America. And it also would mean we would have an influx from a capitalism and GDP standpoint of 11 million new consumers. Now, it's interesting with Cuba being predominantly conservative and Republican. Do you know what that 11 million would offset? Can you do the quick math? 11 million Cubans would almost immediately offset all of the crappy liberals that Biden let in. It'd be almost a one-for-one exchange to rebalance it out. It would. So from that standpoint, it'd be a good deal. Their country for foreign investment is really good for sugar, tobacco, and coffee. Sugar, tobacco, and coffee. And I predict, just so you know, I think tobacco is going to make a roaring return. Not the tobacco industry like you know it, but the tobacco industry as it was when it was native and not chemicals, etc. Right? It's the chemicals in the cigarettes that kill you, what they put in it. They didn't have those issues when it was natural tobacco, and natural tobacco heals. Do your own research, etc. They have critical minerals in Cuba and in Cuban lands of nickel and cobalt. Those are two very important components for all batteries and electronics. So they have nickel and cobalt. The nickel and cobalt would create jobs, and our supply chain for nickel and cobalt wouldn't come from where? Wouldn't come from where? China. So what do you want? Nickel and cobalt that we have to support China and ship it all in? and Africa, where it's truly slave labor, or would you rather have it come from right there, just right across the water, and we get it? You have to understand this is a very big defensive measure against China. It would create jobs, and our supply chain would be closer to home. So that's a very big deal. Cuba's beautiful. Cuba's beautiful. They got historic sites. They got all these beaches and cultural appeal. It will become and would become a very top travel destination that will be cheaper for you to get to than any other beach travel destinations you're going outside the United States. Right? And it would already almost instantly integrate with all American networks because we have our base there. All of our baseline resources that connect this together is literally just flipping the switch, boom, and it's online on our side. So that from the economy would be great. And so this 11 million people coming in and with the materials they have would actually put us up on the biotech and energy and real estate scale, because real estate in Cuba will go nuts, right? Real estate, Cuba will be the new island destination because there's tons of real estate available. Open up, people would be investing in Cuba fast. It would be a real estate boom. Now you got to understand that Cuba is only 90 miles from us, right? It's only 90 miles. And so from that standpoint, because it's disconnected from Florida, and because it has had and does have military operations on it, you know it, Gitmo and otherwise, it would enhance our national security. See, what happens is Cuba has two things. Cuba technically is communist. Communist is China and Russia. It would immediately take from our shores, only 90 miles away, something that Russia and or China has a say in. Boom. That's probably one of the number one things. It completely takes it out of China's hands and Russia's hands, right? And puts it in American hands. Legally, Russia and China could try to stage in Cuba, which they've done. And yes, we'd go to fighting about it, but they have a legal stance to be here. Basically, it would significantly limit our vulnerabilities. And if China and Russia ever really exploited it, boy, everything's within missile range. It'd be like what's going on in Israel right now with Lebanon and Hezbollah. Everything, Florida, Texas, Atlanta, all of that would be hit by missile, could be hit by missile, right? And so Cuba would actually serve in a far better way as a forward base of operations for the United States. So that's good. Now, what that would do is Port Mariel would become a naval hub for us. And so this is important for Haiti, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. So we would have a port that serves directly facing the communist southern countries. We got a big invasion coming in the Darien Gap or some of these other places. You bop right over from Cuba and you push them back long before they even get to Mexico or otherwise. You understand what happens? And so what it does is it pushes that line because we'll be in that interference line prior to Mexico, right? We can port right down as they're coming up through all of these other countries, you know, Venezuela, Nicaragua, etc. We would be able to stop it there, a lot of that trafficking, even before it even got into Mexico. So disaster response would speed up. Counter narco operations would go through the roof, along with counterterrorism, right? It would improve regional relations because now you'd have the United States integrated into Cuba, communicating with these Latin countries. You wouldn't have Cuba that is not going to say anything good about the United States of America, who's always going to badmouth us, right? And so in that instance, we would have better management, fostering real migration instead of illegal immigration. Got it? Now, Cuba does have an advance in something we're lacking in. In the United States, our professionals or our students becoming doctors has lessened. We have a very large, significant problem in the United States of America with people willing to become doctors, because our system, it's not that our system is overloaded, our system is over pharmacled and charges and cost, and they keep on pushing it through, and the doctors continue to lose more and more and more and more money. Well, Cuba has a ready to go base of about 3 or 4 million Americans that have been trained in the medical fields, and or the people that had migrated here that would really rather go back. It does a double release burden. You got people that are trained that want to work, but you would take a lot of the people that were forced under a bad regime, which could be 4 million people that would want to go back to their homes and their lands there. That would reduce our pressures on our current system and bolster Cuba, right? They have a lot to do with our arts. They have a lot to do with our arts, with baseball, et cetera, cuisine, et cetera. It could be a great, like I said, destination. They have strong health and literacy programs. That's about all they can do there to try to justify their government. It'd also be a big humanitarian win, because you would lift the country out of communism and bring it square into capitalism and a move. So it would benefit our country in many ways to do it. And so strategically, I can see it. Economically, I can see it. There's not manufacturing any more land. I can see it. I'm all for Greenland. I'm all for Greenland. And I'll say it again, and I'm going to say it again, and you need to understand it. Greenland is ice, Iceland is green. That's how you remember them. Greenland is ice. Iceland is green. One of the most significant things facing the world and us right now is what's going to happen with AI. Okay? AI is not going to be stopped. It has to be managed. But take away your science fiction version of AI being the devil. Let's look at just the business side of it. And why even Greenland? I said a long time ago, why does it make sense? One, it puts us closer to Russia, so we have more of a defense system. That strategically is easy. Right now, many of you are experiencing issues with NVIDIA and a lot of other companies that are scrambling to build artificial intelligence data centers. Okay? Now, the states want to attract this business. It's billions of dollars if they get any one of these centers. The states do, in fact, want to attract the business of AI. AI has two limitations. It's no longer a computing limitation. Okay? The limitations of AI are the actual processing chip speeds, and they're going faster than you can ever imagine. That's why NVIDIA became the first $1 trillion company. So that part's tackled. In some of your states, they're coming in wanting to build AI centers. What happens is it has to be supported by the electrical grid. And it has to be supported by the water grid. So first, let's take electrical. Think of your own computer at home. Think of your phone or your laptop. You know how you've used your phone for a few minutes and you put it in your pocket and it's warm? Or you touch your tower or you touch your laptop. That's one little laptop and it's hot. Now think of that a million times over. See, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to run the systems for AI. It's off the charts. So if it's up to your state, and the president covered this in the State of Union, if it's up to your state, they're going to come in, they're going to build 500,000 square feet or 1 million square feet, but your electric bill is going to go through the roof. Okay? It's going to go through the roof because your grid has to be able to support it, which means your grid has to be fortified, which means the power companies are going to want redress and they're going to pass it through to you. Your bill's going to go up. And because of the pace of it, you're going to have more power outages, more brownouts, more blackouts, because our system is already taxed without them. But what's even more important than power, and most grids will not support these things, what's even more important than power is cooling. That's why I told you, you use your phone and it's hot and you put it in your pocket or your laptop, it feels hot. Now imagine that 1 million times over. Right now, the only way to cool in these centers is to pump your local water system into basically big radiators, cooling system, just like your car, to cool down these big processes, right? Right? Etc. Okay? But that same water, after it's been subject to it, comes back out into your system. Now, what they don't know is what is the toxic effect of that, but you're having your water run through one big massive radiator heat system, and heat is what leaches out the poisons, the metals, etc. It's a heat process because the ground's naturally cool. And so by default, your water supply will be getting worse. So you got your power supply and water supply. Now, if you're watching anything I do in intellectual property, I have solved with many great people, and this is part of what the president talked about. We're about to roll out the microgrid system where, as he said, you want a power company, you're going to build your own power grid to support it. We did that, and we can now provision it, and we're in the process of doing that so it doesn't tax the grid. But we still got the water problem. And this will take a few years to do, but we still got the water problem. And so that's why Greenland's so important. You can't, even if you do geothermal, right? That's still pulling water from down, running it through metallic heated systems that put stuff in it, and pumping it back into the water stream. It's not, can it be done with geothermal? It's the fact what's done to your pure water after it's already filtered through all the strata, straits, rocks, etc. It's clean. Why would you want to run it from the radiator? Would you go to your car if it was truly running off of water and not antifreeze? If back in the days or just water, would you just drain it and drink it? No. Anyway, so I can tell you right now, we have solved the power problem. And we all learned off of when Elon had to do it and everybody deployed gas generators off the pipelines. That's where a lot of my work's been. I've now closed that loop, and now we can go to a microgrid system, which you're going to see things in the future. You're going to see where you're no longer connecting to your power company. Your power grid, your power station is going to be in your neighborhood. You're not going to be affected by a citywide blackout. Your whole thing is going to be microtized. So we've got that under control. But this is where Greenland comes in. Where Greenland comes in is frozen. Same with the water. And because we already understand submerged cooling and desalinization, it takes no energy to cool the systems. That's why Greenland is very important. It has advanced minerals and all kinds of other stuff and freshwater reserves and all this other stuff. But it solves, because we've got it solved on the energy side, uniquely, United States. And it will solve the cooling side. So if you get the Greenland deal done, you've got to understand, when we're worried about China using AI maliciously or Russia using AI maliciously, you got to understand, as we're building to be the top of the pyramid, which means we control the chips, which we do, we control the power without taxing the system, which we do, and we can cool a different way, then you understand we sit at top of the AI pyramid, and that's the play, and that's how you make China and everybody else pay attention. Right? That's it. The system hasn't caught up yet. I've been very worried about the Blackstones and other people doing the play, trying to buy up on grids, because they know the rates are going to go through the roof. We're going to make it invisible. Basically meaning when AI comes in and does what it does, even if it stays here, they will have their own power grid. It will provide them 100% of their power needs. It will not tax off your grid, and it will actually be clean energy and will not pollute, and it will be a closed system that they are 100% financially responsible for, and you can't find that any other place. And Alaska has a freezing and an unfreezing effect, right? That Greenland doesn't have. Now, the obvious question is, why is somebody like me not in government? Because you can't get anything done in government. You can either try to be in government and get it done and it goes on for years, or you develop outside the system fast and say, here it is. And by the way, you tell them you did it. And all these look what I did, look what I commissioned, look what we invented, look what we pioneered, and let them fucking take the accolades and we get it done. That's what all of this is about. Now, I've got to tell you, I worry constantly. I worry constantly about not being able to carry the archives that, we've got $3.5 million in. I constantly worry about it. You don't just throw good money after bad continually. And I already know what the Democrats are doing. Everybody knows it. They've been stocking up. So I have to keep that. But this has to be separated out from my businesses and stuff. But this is the stuff that keeps me up at night, because I don't want to be focusing on elections and beating the shit out of lawmakers on elections. This has taken 4 years of my life not focusing on fixing our energy. Not focusing on fixing our energy. The stuff we know we can do. Put in chat right now, what is your average? If you had to take your electricity bill and you had to average it over 12 months, what's your average bill, would you say, in your electric bill right now? Frank says $550 a month. Montana Finn says $100 a month. Dina, 280, 225, 290, 300, 225, 250, 350. I predict another one, 350 to 400, 150, 160, 250, 125. I predict, because we already know we can do it, with our new micro power grid system, your electric bill will be fixed. It will be fixed. And that fix will be somewhere between $50 and $100 a month or $99 a month, and it will never go higher no matter what. And it will be a fixed, flat, non-adjustable rate because your neighborhood will have its own grid. That's where we're headed. And that's what will happen. I mean, these are the things we're working on behind the scenes that I've got to cut myself loose, free from trying to fix all this election stuff, that we're on the cusp of delivering. And we already know we can deliver. It's not we think we can, we now know we can. And so you're going to see a lot of loosening up in this. And as we can do this and bring it out and spread it across the country, just imagine what it does. You, even with the growth we have in neighborhoods or whatever, it's not going to be taxing to our system. It's not going to happen. We can't be taxing our system. And the reason we can't be taxing our electric grid is because if any of our main stations or transformers go down, 100% of that comes from China, and it's a 3-year delivery cycle. So what are they going to do in 3 years? Well, they're going to try to route power around to protect it. It means everybody's going to go down. And so from a national security standpoint, we've worked on it. We've got it. And I predict we're going to be able to get to the point that your electric bill is going to be fixed. Flat fee. And these are the things that I really want to get on with the fact from technology standpoint. Everything I've told you we can deliver and delivering, that I've got to be free to do and create what I can create. And so everything's kind of moving in a line. It's just like anything else. You're doing your funding, you're getting stuff done. This part takes 20 million, this part takes 50 million. Then it drops into the systems. Then it's just development. It's really only build time from there. But any one micro power plant can come online anywhere between 14 and 16 months. And once you get past that 14 and 16 months of getting the first one online, it just keeps on speeding up. So that's why at night I have a double stress, right? The double stress. Are we going to get this? I stress about things. Are we going to get this fixed? Are we going to be able to carry these damn archives? Are they going to beat us by just shut them down because we can't keep doing it? Or shit, how much time is this taken from what I really do and really develop? But we've got to fix this. And that's it. And that's the system and the fighting system. But one way to fight the system is just with really good capitalism outside their controls. Outside their controls. And so that was the major announcement that I can now talk about. You heard President Trump talk about is that he has now authorized independent micro power grids, and the permitting process will be immediate and fast. And that was the mark that we had to have happen, and he delivered it and he put it in. Here we're off, right? Our plans for the archives is we've got to keep them past this midterm into 27. And then there'll be permanent archives we'll turn over for history, et cetera. But from an auditing standpoint, we have to keep it in a perfect chain of custody. It's going to come into play in the midterms. It's going to be all kind of hell, whoop ass, kick ass. That's when it's going to come into terms. So that's November, and you're going to fight about it for a year. And so that's why we have to reach those goals, or we don't reach it. That's how far it's played in advance. Anyway, thanks for the catch up. Go look up lemon, because I truly think it's a sign from God. And that we'll get through this. And I actually really do believe we will. Share the program. I love you all.
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on "It's the machines," or "The machines changed the votes," or "The voting company executive said he would make sure Donald J. Trump would not win." They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or six-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pull the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archive secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.